I've always been a very independent, motivated, kind of girl. And I had never experienced, I even like in the Bible, when it says women submitting to their husbands, that freaked me out. Like it freaked me out. Cause I thought that it was an either or. I thought you could either be super successful woman in her career or be an awesome wife. And through dating someone who is so godly and we have God at the center of our relationship, I feel so safe. I feel so taken care of that it makes me a better businesswoman. It makes me a better podcaster, because when I am so loved in the way that I am by my partner, it makes me feel safe to take chances. And it's like when I played tennis in college, the worst matches I played were the ones where I felt like I couldn't mess up. But the ones where I was so free just to like take chances, those are some of my best matches. I feel like it's the same in relationship. I feel so safe to blossom and to bloom. Hey, Made to Shine friends. I just said that really weird. I was like, mind to shine. Hey, Made to Shine friends. This is not going to be your typical interview conversation. I've actually switched it up this week. My dear friend Andrea, I was on her podcast from Miss to Mrs. December 6th. And the reason I know the exact date I was on her podcast, which is the conversation you're about to hear, is because ironically, it was a conversation about singleness, dating. How do you know he's the one? In about 2 hours after I got off of this podcast where we were talking about all these things and she was interviewing me, I got engaged to the love of my life. And I had no idea. And so it's kind of awesome. So now I'm coming at to you, Made to Shine fam, because a lot of you guys sent me messages on Instagram that you loved the interview I did with her. And so she sent me the recording. I figure I just share it with you guys for this week's episode. And so I pray that this blesses you. And in case you need the reminder, because it's not going to be said on her podcast, friends, all of you have a ministry. The mission of Made to Shine, my podcast, is to remind you that ministry isn't just for preachers or pastors. It's the way you shine God's light in the spaces he's trusted you with, whether that's your corporate job, your college campus, your high school campus, your relationships, your friendships at the restaurant, with your grandparents, whatever it is, with yourself in your apartment. You have a ministry wherever you go. And especially when you're in relationships and dating, and especially marriage, oh my goodness, you have a ministry. And so I pray that this episode blesses you and you enjoy hearing me get interviewed for once and getting put on the hot seat. Love you guys.
Welcome in, you guys. I'm your host, Andrea, with From Mrs. to Ms. I am being joined by someone very special today. Her name is Annie Mayfield. As she would say, she's a new friend of mine. I'm very excited to have her. Annie is a 4-time Amazon bestseller, which is amazing, a 7-time author, and a corporate account executive. So she got a day job. She is also host of the Made to Shine podcast. It has listeners in over 72 countries and was a top 10% globally streamed Spotify podcast in 2023. She has been featured on Forbes and the New York City Journal for her efforts to remind the younger generation how divinely loved they are, so they may shine their spirit in all that they do. She graduated from Wofford College with a BS in psychology, where she played tennis and ran track. And her new book is called You Matter, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit. So welcome to the show, Annie. I'm so excited to have you.
I am so stoked to be on. I mean, your energy, personality, and the Christmas decorations you got going on in the back. I'm like, yes, let's go. This is my people. These are my people.
This is it. I always love when I'm reading an introduction. It throws me off slightly when it says a BS in psychology. I find it odd. That's, they abbreviate that.
Don't you imagine saying that at family dinner parties? Like, I'm BS'd in psychology.
Exactly. It's accurate too. A little bit. So, okay. So we're going to get started at the beginning. So I'm going to read this first. So you wrote this in a post that I saw. You wrote, "You can't achieve in faith." Someone who had no idea how much that statement would shake me. In my entire life, I've prayed this need to matter and believed I had to accomplish my way there. This led to years of striving in sports, relationships, body image, money, people-pleasing, and career obsession, all with the intent of earning my way to mattering. A few months ago, everything I used as a means to validate my existence was stripped of me. Layoffs at my corporate company, a ringless finger as I watched all my friends get engaged, a business scam that left me a couple of $1,000s out of pocket, and I came face to face with an eerily raw version of myself. I sat there thinking, so this is what it's like not to matter. In that moment, God peeled back all the decorations I thought made up my mattering and taught me I still mattered. Wow. I mean, I was going to ask you, I kind of sent you some questions I wanted to ask before, and I was just going to be like, tell me how we got here, like how did it start? And then I saw what you wrote, and it just really resonated with me. And because I think it's going to resonate with a lot of people. We're all going through those struggles right now. I mean, really, since COVID, life has been nothing but a struggle. The layoffs, the relationships have gone real wonky, right? Dating is just really, period. And the body image thing, because it's so much more prevalent in social media today, and that's a struggle in itself. So tell us a little bit about your journey that led you to this revelation, if you would share.
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. And it's funny, I always say writers write to themselves. And so like when I wrote that, I was writing to myself, and even hearing you read that, I was like, wow, I needed to hear that today.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. Like I write and I go back and then I realize, wait, I need this reminder. Like I need to be reminded that it's not the ornaments on a Christmas tree that give it life. It's the life in the tree itself.
Oh,
and
beautiful.
like, and I think going back to that, like, I guess, analogy, which is actually what came to mind when I started writing this book at a very young age. And I always preface this with saying, because I think I was a psychologist, I feel like therapists always blame things on parents.
Yeah. No, I'm kidding. Sorry.
I know. I feel like therapists always blame things on the parents. And there's a lot of, but I had the best parents. I have the best parents. So I always preface it with like, it took me a lot of figuring out where did this come from, because it wasn't my parents. If I have an unfair advantage in this world, it is God gave me the best parents. And so it's true. And so like for me, it took a lot of digging, like where did this come from? And I think at a young age, I started equating my worth with the ornaments that I had on my life. And some of those ornaments were things you could touch, they were outside of me. They were, I went to college for sports. So it was like how well I did in tennis, who my boyfriend was, what people thought of me. But eventually it became towards like how I looked and how I was presented and what people perceived of me, or what I thought people thought of me as. And through that, I guess, mindset and doing the digging on where did this come from, I think I'm a really good example of just someone that can grow up in an awesome home, but the world is so powerful and the messaging of the world is so powerful. No one's immune. No one's immune. If you're not consistently rooting your worth and your identity and who you are in Christ, you're going to fall prey to what the world says you are, which is you're only as good as your last big accomplishment. Yeah. You're only as low as your worst moment or as high as your best, which is constantly fleeting. You are what others think of you or how they see you to be, which is sexy or beautiful or not, or worthy because you're married or not, or whatever it is. And I think that same insecurity, which is I'm not good enough, right? I think that's, if you really peel back all the layers, I think that's the biggest thing that capes us all, is we all believe underneath, I'm not loved and I'm not lovable.
Yep.
And a preacher I love actually says that belief, false belief, is the root of all addiction. It's why we reach for the bottle. It's why we reach for the drugs. It's why we reach for the obsessive exercise or the gossip or the judgment about other people, because we're trying to cushion this fear we have that we're not good enough just as we are. And for me, where that started, honestly, was at a young age with body image. I remember thinking I was fat in 6th grade because of like things girls called me. Yeah. And I don't even think they knew what they were saying. Yeah. But since then it's morphed into all these different expressions, the same insecurity, but then it turned into, well, do I have the best boyfriend? Well, am I succeeding in sports? Well, how are my grades? Well, actually I'll be honest. I didn't really care that much about my grades growing up, but I was very much like, make sure I don't fail.
Yeah.
Do I have like a personality that everybody's jealous of? Am I always happy all the time? Do people see me as happy all the time, which means I can never show them when I'm sad?
Mm.
Did I get the college scholarship? Did I get the ring on my finger, which obviously has not happened for me yet?
Yeah.
To like all these other things. And I think if we're really honest with ourselves, like I said, for me, that's my story. But
Yeah.
I think we all can relate to the fear that we're not good enough.
Yeah.
And it takes this expression and evolution in our lives and how that comes out in different seasons of our lives.
Wow. So well said. And you really hit the nail on the head with that. I think that the underlying foundation for everyone is the I am not worthy, I am not
Yeah.
lovable, that same thing that we keep telling ourselves over and over again. And obviously, social media has been a big part of that, whether good or bad,
Yeah.
but we see this false facade of all these lives, people dressed up, the filters, everything. It's no wonder that we're all like, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to live up to that? I'm never going to look like that. I'm never going to sound like that. I'm never going to have that career or whatever we see online. So it's such a difficult time. And I think what you said also about your family, you had a wonderful family growing up, and so did I. And it's finding out where you belong, though, right? Regardless of how great your family or it's not, you need to find your way and find those things outside of the ornaments that are making you happy. So just so well said. And I can see that journey that you've gone on just from what you just said there, because that's hard to go from a young age and be, told you're not attractive or that you're too fat or whatever it is. And gosh, I wish people just realize what those words do to somebody, whether they know what they're talking about or not,
Oh, and the funny thing is too, like you have those people speak that over you, but then they go away. Like that might just be in 1 minute, but the words that how it influences how you speak about yourself, it will last years. I mean, I was telling a friend the other day, I was like, I am 26 years old and I am still having to be very conscious of my mind not playing like the same tape of thought that I was going through when I was 13 years old, 14 years old, 15 years old. And I think that's what's so special. Something I love in scripture that James writes about is we're all tempted by our own desires. And I love that because it's so true. Because here I am talking about like in my life, I've struggled with like body dysmorphia, eating disorder, over exercising, not eating enough, feeling like I need a man to give me my worth at times, feeling like money and career will give me my worth. For you, it's your own thing. It's your own thing that maybe it's like, man, I'm only as good as my kids perform. I'm only as good as what other people think of me in the mom parent teacher meetings, or I'm like things that aren't mine because I'm not there yet, but are yours. And I think that that's what's so powerful again about the underlying principle is like we all experience that in our life, that feeling of not feeling good enough, but it's just being very, very sensitive to, well, what does that look like for me? Because it's not going to look like that for you, Andrea. Like it's going to look like that for me. And it's like honoring what it is specifically that you struggle with and recognizing this doesn't make me better or less or worse than anybody else. It's just like the thing that I'm struggling with. It's the thorn in my side. And like, accepting that and then figuring out how to bring that to Christ to move forward.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you've spoken a little bit on your Instagram. I've seen you talk about how God knew who we were before he even made our plans for us, right? I think it's Jeremiah 1:5. Do I have that correct? Yes. So, and I love that when you said it quite a bit throughout, a lot of your posts. And so you really stand by that. And it's so true. We're trying to make ourselves into all of these things. And when you just sit back and go, he has this plan for us. And he already knows where we're going to end up. So we can put in every effort we want. But if it's not the plan, that's not where we're going to go. Right?
It's so true. There's a quote that I love. And excuse me, I told you I have kind of a cold talking a bit, but there's a quote that I love, which is, we all come into this world originals, but most of us die copies. And I love that for so many reasons because, comparison, you mentioned social media. It's so easy, especially with what we do with like podcasting or writing. It's so easy to like the trap you get in isn't comparing yourself to people that you don't relate to. Like
Yeah.
I would never compare myself to Michael Jordan because he's a man and a basketball player. Like I have nothing in common. It's the people that you see doing the thing you think God called you to do, and God seems to be liking their work more than
More than
yours.
yours.
And then you get into this like, wait, what? But something that I love to remind people is like Jeremiah 1:5, God knew you before he formed you, or before he formed you, he knew you before you were born, he set you apart. The way he delivered you into this world to do what you were designed to do, Andrea, what you were designed to do, what you do on this podcast, the way you speak is literally curated for exactly your spirit to say it in the way that it is, to hit people in the way God wants it to. So you could say something on this podcast. I could say the same thing in my own way on my podcast,
Yeah.
but the way that you say it on yours is going to hit somebody so differently than if I would say it, just because it's you saying it. And we are so busy thinking, oh my gosh, God loves their work so much more than mine, or God's blessing their work, or who am I, or does it matter? That's why, like this last book, You Matter. It's you matter. What you do matters. And in a very dark world, we need every single person, quite frankly, to get over their ego, to get over their lack of following, and to do what God called them to do, because your voice matters. Even if it's for one person, it matters. And whatever capacity that shows up, whether you're a corporate lawyer, a marketer, a full-time mama, someone who's about to get married and is figuring it out, or a podcaster. You matter and your voice matters.
Wow, absolutely. And so I want to talk a little bit about dating because that's what most of my show is about. And, I want to preface it by saying we had a little discussion before when I asked you to be on the podcast and you're like, "Ooh, can I talk about my faith in Christ?" And I'm like, absolutely. And honestly, I've never really gone down this road with my podcast, which is very exciting. And I hesitated for a moment only because I'm like, well, I do like to talk about sex and I do like to talk about all that stuff.
Yes.
Make it okay. And I thought, absolutely, it makes it okay. And for me personally, and I've never really talked about this, I mean, I grew up Presbyterian. And then, my mom and the rest of my family, we're all Christian at this point, and they are super faithful in their journey. And it isn't until more recently that I've really understood that, I think I was fighting it for a long time, and stepped away from it. I don't live near them. It wasn't the same. But man, lately I've just been really diving into it. And so the timing of arranging this podcast with you couldn't have been more perfect.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was neat to see that. And so I was interested and excited to have you because I thought I would love to talk about this on the podcast and how dating and self-worth and people pleasing and all that can relate throughout Christ and learning.
Oh yeah. So and what you said about sex, I'm like, I'm like, God created sex. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, I think this is something actually I've talked more about on my podcast because, for me, I believe like I'm in a relationship right now and we're honoring no sex before marriage. Like, we're honoring that. But I think what's so cool is I think people's perception on Christianity and sex, and it's this taboo topic. I'm like, God created it. It's supposed to be one of the best things ever. Like, let's talk about it. Yeah. And so, anyways, but I love how you said that, and I love what you're doing here. So I'm going.
And I want to dive into that a little bit later with your boyfriend and all that good stuff, because I do have some questions there. Okay, but right now, so my question right now about dating is, what does dating with faith at the center look like? And how can couples keep God as their foundation during, when they're starting to date, whether they're new to, to learning about God or not? How do they keep that as the foundation?
That's so good. Honestly, I'm speaking from experience. Because I used to call myself a serial dater, or my sisters used to call me that, because I was the girl. I went through a decade where I had 3 boyfriends, and was single for probably a total of 2 months throughout that entire decade.
Oh, wow.
So I remember in high school, I got into a 4-year relationship, and then in college, a 2-year, and then another 3-year. And then I took a little hiatus. But all that to say, I have dated where Christ wasn't the center. So and now I'm dating where we hope to say he is. And so I will say to start with, if you want that intention, I think it's important to start with why. The reason why for me, as someone who's dated with God not at the center and with God at the center, something I've seen now with Hunter, who I love so much, he's my boyfriend. He loves me the best way possible because he loves God more than me. And I've seen that.
Mm.
Jeremiah 1:5, God knew me before I was born, meaning he knows me better than, of course, Hunter knows me, but also than I know myself.
Right.
So through his spirit in Hunter, I have seen it. Like I have seen him teach Hunter how to love me and like how to be patient with me in my little nuances, in my little quirks. Like I've seen it.
Wow.
I think too, for me, like infidelity's been in my past. And that was something that at a young age, like someone who you think is the love of your life and you're going to spend forever with, and like going through that at such a young age, it caused a lot of barriers to come up. And I think for a long time, I even remember a season, I was like, I just don't think I'm ever going to be the person that's going to get married. Like, I
Yeah.
just don't think that's going to be for me. And a
It's the
lot of that,
mindset for a lot of people. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, it's a protection. It's
Yeah.
like it's better that way.
Yep.
What I've seen though with Hunter is because he loves the Lord more than he would ever love me. He loves me in such a way that is so honoring, that is so trustworthy. Even if like I say something to him and I preface it with like, this sounds crazy, but this girl talked to you and I was jealous and I know that sounds crazy. He's like, listen, I might not understand that, but because it's a problem to you, I will be sensitive about it.
Mm.
And you see kind of just these things, it's this maturity. And I think, I don't know, I just think, it's like who better than the creator of relationship to
Yeah.
be at the center of your relationship, teaching you how to conduct relationship.
Yeah.
And so through that, I think a lot of things, another layer of that too, for me, that maybe your listeners can relate to. I've always been a very independent, motivated, kind of girl.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never experienced, I even like in the Bible, when it says women submitting to their husband, that freaked me out. Like it freaked me out. And I was like, okay, maybe God doesn't like, maybe I'm going to be like Paul, who was someone in the Bible that never got married. And I'm going to be like, maybe God is like, maybe I'm a Paul kind of lady. And like, he just wants to like use me. I'll write, I'll speak, but like maybe marriage isn't in the cards for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought that it was an either or. I thought you could either be super successful woman in her career or be an awesome wife and an awesome mom.
Okay. Yeah.
And through dating someone who is so godly and we have God at the center of our relationship, I feel so safe. I feel so taken care of that it makes me a better businesswoman. It makes me a better podcaster, because when I am so loved in the way that I am by my partner, it makes me feel safe to take chances.
Yeah.
And it's like when I played tennis in college, the worst matches I played were the ones where I felt like I couldn't mess up because it was the worst thing ever. But the ones where I was so free just to like take chances, it might have sucked, but I was like, whatever, it's fine, we'll pivot. Those are some of my best matches. I feel like it's the same in relationship. I feel so safe to blossom and to bloom. And in the Bible, there's actually this analogy they give of a garden and how the husband is supposed to be like the caretaker of the garden and the woman is like the fruit. It's like the flower. And if a husband takes care of his garden, he gets to receive the fruit. But the woman's supposed to be taken care of so that she can blossom to her utmost capacity.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's the why. The how, very practically speaking, do not look for a project.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest piece of advice I have. Like, the reality of it is I learned this the hard way, but in the 2.5-year hiatus of me just like not dating anybody, I really recognized, okay, if I'm going to get back in it, I'm going to be with someone that already knows and loves the Lord and has a personal relationship with him that's independent of me. I do not want to turn into the person that's like, let's go to Bible study. Let's get in the word. I want someone who has already developed that relationship with the Lord.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think, whether you believe in God, whether you don't, kind of my take is whatever you're doing in life, identify your values. What are your values? Your values are your non-negotiables. For me, it's faith. That's that's like, you better believe in what I believe, because that's like how I want to raise a family.
Okay.
For my significant other, not like with my friends and stuff, but like with my significant other. But for other people, it might be a value is I want to have kids or I don't, or or finances, like how you look at career, etc. You have to identify that. And then you need to find someone that they're aligned, because I see a lot of people in dating, whether you believe in God, whether you don't, They go into things, they fall in love, they figure out, oh, he wants kids, she doesn't. He likes to work more than she would like, but they don't talk about it. Then they get married, and then it's a mess. And it's like, honestly, I think you date godly by making sure they have that relationship up front,
Yeah.
and then having the hard conversations up front around what's allowed and what's not, and letting God take care of the outcome. I always say our job is obedience. God's job is outcome. And so it's just being like, practically speaking, I think it's whether you believe in God or you don't, I think the advice still applies. Don't look for a project. You cannot fix anybody. You cannot. So you need to look with someone who is running the same pace you're at towards whatever values that is that matter to you.
Well said. And I think that a lot of that is accepting where they're at as well, and recognizing that you're putting a square peg in a round hole, right? You keep trying and trying. And it's interesting. I'm in dating right now, and I was on, I was on one of the, listen, I'm in dating. I don't even know what that means, but I was online the other day, and I matched with this guy who on paper, everything looked great, right? And so we started chatting just briefly. And then he asked me what my plans were for the day. And I said, I'm going to go to church, and then I'm going to go to lunch and, do some Christmas decorations or whatever.
Yeah.
And when I came back and looked, he had responded with, "Oh, I'm not very religious. Is that going to be a problem?" And I didn't respond right away. I was like, okay, like, let's really look at this. Is that a problem if he is not on the same journey as I am? He doesn't have the same beliefs I do. Like I said, admittedly, I'm not where you are, Annie. I am, on my own journey and just getting back into that. But I took a pause. I went to take a shower and I came back out, and he had unmatched me. And I was like, my first reaction is, oh, no, he didn't. You're like, what? How would he do this?
That's a natural human reaction.
Natural reaction. And I thought, wow, how quick. My first reaction was how quick for him to judge and to just be like, oh, when he didn't even wait to hear my response, I might have taken a moment to say, you know what, I just started this path as well in this journey. And so I'm figuring that out, or I could have said whatever. He didn't even wait to find out. And, and I was annoyed by it. It really bothered me for a little while. Like, how dare he just unmatch me for that? And then it's just like you said, though. Am I looking for a project? If I am headed in that direction and want to go down that path, am I looking for somebody that flat out says to me, I am not religious, and is that a problem for you? And didn't even wait to hear the response. That's not somebody who's willing to be as open as I would probably want, or to take that journey with me. So I think it was just really, there's great timing that happened. It made me think about that, like, to really explain that finding that person is, not looking for a project. It is just acknowledging that they may not be the right fit, no matter how cute they are, how tall they are, what their job is. They may not be a right fit because you spiritually don't believe in the same things. And so I think that's,
that's good. That's good. And I think it's like exactly as you said. I mean, what's so cool is I love that you're in this exploration phase and asking all the questions. I think that's so, like, recently a friend kind of told me along the same lines. She's like, I'm just getting back into my faith. Like, where would you? I'm like, not as where you are. I'm like, honey, none of us are where we should be. Like, I always say, there is no such thing as a professional Christian. Only Jesus Christ gets that label. We are literally all figuring it out. No one is an expert. The minute someone tells you they're an expert and they have it figured out, they are drowning in self-righteousness, which God does not like. So, it's just like, we are all figuring it out. But I just want to give, like, I truly believe, and this is such a cliche line, but like, rejection really is redirection. I believe that. And I believe it is also God's protection. I went on so many online dates. So like that 2-year hiatus, I was like, some days independent, let's go. We're working on a relationship with the Lord. Oh, we're unavailable. And then some days I'm like, I'm on the apps. I am on the apps. And I would meet guys and they would love the Lord. And sometimes you meet people and you're like, I don't know why this isn't clicking. It should be clicking, but it's not clicking. And it would irritate me so much. And then there were some guys, I felt the click, but they didn't. And they would call me with the dreaded, it's just not going to click. And I remember for so long feeling like, God, is this something you want from me? Because I feel like it's not, and I'm getting discouraged, and it's hard to put yourself out there. It is, but that's where like I so genuinely believe. I don't know why I feel in my heart just to say like it just takes one person, and it's like we're not looking for 10 million husbands. I hope not. Like we're just looking for one, or just one boyfriend, like just one. And you never know when that one's going to come. But I so believe in the God that's over perfect timing. And it might even be like, because again, Jeremiah 1:5, he knew you before you were born. He knows you. And when you are best apt to receive that one he has for you, or he could be working on their heart to receive you and be able to treasure you in the way you deserve to be. And so I just really believe in like rejection is protection.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, that's so good. That's so good. So, what are some red flags in a relationship that indicate it's not honoring God's plan for you? Are there things that people can kind of look for as a red flag and go, oh, maybe this isn't the right direction? Just anything off the top of your head that you think of.
Oh yeah, off the top. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I two things that when you first say that come to mind. The first is I mentioned this previously, but I was listening to a podcast one time, and there was this girl there was this guy who was saying his now wife. So obviously it worked out.
Yeah.
But his now wife, when they first met, it was like a weird scenario where her ex-boyfriend was also there, and it was just weird. And he was like really nervous about telling her like this made me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And his brother gave him great advice, which is like, dude, if this is a problem for you and she is a girl that you would want to continue to pursue, it will be a problem for her too. Even if it's not directly her problem, it will become something she's sensitive to. And so a red flag, that would be a red flag in my book, is like, if I said, hey, this bothers me, like when you act this way, when you are with that girl, when you are in this place and you do this, or you make fun of me in front of your friends to joke around or whatever have you, that bothers me. And they didn't honor that, even though they didn't understand it. Like, great example, my boyfriend now, he's was said like something to, it was his sister, my sister and him were kind of making fun of me. But afterwards I was like, Hunter, that kind of hurt my feelings. Like when you were making fun of me with my sister, and I know like y'all are close and y'all were just, but I was like, that really like, I don't know. It reminded me of when I was little and my siblings would gang up on me and like, you're my boyfriend. Like you shouldn't be picking on me like that too. Yeah. And while even though like he didn't necessarily understand it, he was like, I'm so sorry. Like that will not happen again. Like this is obviously something that you're sensitive about. I will be sensitive about it too. Yeah. So I think red flag number one, if you have something that's an insecurity of yours and they're not sensitive to that, that's a red flag.
For sure.
Because we are all imperfect people with baggage. Everyone has baggage. Even if you've never been in a relationship before, you have insecurities if you're walking this earth. And so like you want a partner that is going to be sensitive and perceptive over what they can do to cater to that and make you feel stronger in that. Not like stronger and feeling more secure in that place. Yeah. The second thing too, I would just say is like, if it's, you shouldn't, and I really didn't believe this until I did start seeing a guy that did this so well. And this is why, again, I love dating a godly man, because yes, he's leading me, but he's led by the Lord. I never had to guess where I stood. Ooh. Like that was not a thing. Like Hunter was always so intentional about like, I'd like to see you again. Like, I'm just checking in. Like, we've been on a couple dates. I am really enjoying it. Like, I would like for this to continue, but where are you at? Clear communication. I cannot stand things nowadays. And like, I cannot stand this like ambiguity that the dating world is, which I've been there, which is, what are we? Do I invite them to the Christmas party? Do I not? Do I say they're my boyfriend? Do I, what, like, cause they didn't ask, but we've been dating for like 6 months. Like, where do we stand? Yeah. And I think it's just like clarity is kindness. Yeah. So whoever, like a red flag for me is if you can't tell me right now, like what his intentions are, like if he wants to see you again, that's a red flag. If y'all seen each other, like that's right. Like, I think, no, not right away. Like Hunter and I went on our first date, and he wasn't like, okay, next Saturday, but like he kept talking to me, and then the next day he was like, I would like to take you on another date.
Yeah.
You should feel pursued. I think God designed women to be pursued. Like we
Mhm.
want to feel like a treasure. And I want to feel like I'm on a pedestal. And like I am, yes, a very strong, independent woman that can run businesses, but I also want to feel like I'm on a pedestal when it comes
Yeah.
to the love of my life. And so,
Yeah.
I think it's like you should be pursued.
Yeah.
Um, the last thing I'll mention in the case that there are women that are being like heavily pursued and maybe don't want to be, you should never feel rushed into something. You should always feel pulled towards something. Um, a friend of mine gave me this advice when a couple years ago she was in a relationship and she knew that they had talked about getting married and the like month was coming up when he was going to propose, and they're not together anymore. She's with someone else, but she said that feeling I had, it was like so rushed. I felt so rushed to make a decision, so rushed to say, yeah, sure. Like it just felt so rushed. And it wasn't necessarily him rushing, but this, like the spirit just let her know, like, this is not, trust your gut feeling.
Yep.
Like if something feels off, literally in the Bible, the word compassion, the Greek translation of it means, this is going to sound like funny, but it's called splagnitzimai, and
Okay.
it literally means gut feeling. And
Oh,
so when it says like Jesus had compassion, all the stuff, like Jesus moved off of gut feelings.
yeah.
And so I always say, trust your gut.
Yeah.
It's telling you something. It's your second brain for a reason.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of what you just said actually even goes back to how Hunter makes you feel. Hunter's my
Yeah.
husband too. I love that name. But it goes back to making you feel safe. So the
Mhm.
things of making you feel pursued,
Yeah,
making you feel confident in your situation, not
yeah,
questioning it. And, and honoring your anxieties or your
yeah,
fears or things like that. That again is all about finding somebody that makes you feel safe. And
yeah,
once you're safe in that relationship, that then allows you to go on and do, just like you said, to build these businesses and really flourish in what you were
yeah,
meant to do, because you're
yeah,
not sitting in this space just constantly wondering, why doesn't he like me? Why did he respond that way? Why,
yeah.
hasn't he called me? And so we don't even realize the power of what that has when somebody is clear and concise and communicates and shows us exactly what they want. It allows us, like you said, to become a better person. And
It's so good. Well, it's like, in life, your partner should be someone you're doing life with. Like it's you against the hecticness of this world. You don't want somebody that am I good enough? Going back to am I good enough? The am I good enough insecurity pops up. And that's another part of the hecticness of your life. Like
yeah,
that should be set. Like I always think what's cool is like marriage, you think about marriage between a man and a woman, it's the only other covenant that exists besides our covenant with God.
yeah,
And I think there's a reason for that. Like when you think, and what I believe is that like God's love for us is set. It was
yeah,
proven by what Jesus did on the cross. It doesn't change. Like Andrea, you knowing more about the Bible doesn't change how much God loves you right now.
yeah,
Like you could not do anything that would change how much he loves you right now. You couldn't achieve your way there. You couldn't feel your way out of there. And I believe his love for us is set. I believe marriage is the same way. Like I hope whoever I marry, like his love for me is set. Will it grow? Will it evolve? Absolutely. It'll deepen, but it's set. It's not something I have to earn or achieve my way to. So it's not also something that I can lose by falling short. It's set. And I want that for all women. I think if we got that, like we would change the world.
yeah,
Women are so powerful. Like I just think if we just let ourselves be loved the
yeah,
way God designed us, we would change the world. We are so powerful, but we need to feel safe
yeah.
to access that power. I really believe that.
Oh, beautifully said. So on your Instagram page, okay, you talked about just talking about being successful. You talk about if you want to be successful at something, you've got to be okay with failing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Tell me a little bit more about that and what made you write that.
I think like in my life, at least, I always joke, I am a fire kind of girl. It's like aim, shoot, fire. Nope, fire. And for me, I failed a lot in my life. So
Yeah.
many. Like I have had magnormous failures. But
Mm.
I think what God has blessed me with, if anything, is just I don't want to say naive, but in the back of my mind, I've just always had this attitude of So what? Like, what if it absolutely fails? What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
So people will laugh at me, whatever. Like, I don't know. For me, it's like,
To think that way.
I
Right.
mean, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think, well, it's funny because as a kid, it's typically the opposite. As a kid, you're much more like, yeah, let's go fail. Who cares? And then as you get older, you're like, oh my gosh, what will
Yeah.
people think? And I am not perfect. I care a lot about what people think. We can talk about people pleasing. That's
Yeah.
my whole next book I'm writing now is on that.
Yeah.
But it's actually been the opposite. When I was a kid, I was super shy. I was super timid, super reserved, super afraid of being seen, and failing was a part of that.
Mhm.
Because if you fail, people see you.
Mhm.
As I've gotten older, it's kind of flipped.
Mhm.
And I'm honestly not really sure when that exactly changed. But I think the reality of it is I know this to be true. I believe that inaction is the worst thing you can do because when you act, if it sucks, you can pivot. And at least you know what not to do. But
Yeah.
if I don't do anything, I don't know what not to do or what to keep doing. And
Yeah.
so I just so believe like success and failure are really two sides of the same coin. And
Yeah.
so if you want to be successful, understanding success takes on a whole different meaning for all different types of people. Like what success looks like to me might not be what you have in your head for success for your life.
Mhm.
You've got to be willing to fail. I think you've also got to be willing to start small. I think a lot of people aren't necessarily afraid of failure. They're afraid of being seen failing. And that's a completely different concept. Um, if you launched a business today and it failed, but no one knew about it, would you do it? Well,
Yeah.
probably. Like, probably if the worst thing that could ever happen is I know about it, probably. Like,
Yeah.
if you could do that thing you've always wanted to do and you knew it might fail, but you also were guaranteed no one would find out, I
Yeah.
bet everybody would do that thing. We are so afraid, though, of people seeing us fail and people seeing us start small. We don't want to be seen starting small. We don't want to be seen starting the podcast before we have the podcast following. We
Right.
don't want to be seen posting like an Instagram influencer before we have the following to feel like we can post as an Instagram
Yes.
influencer. We don't want to be seen launching the book before we know someone's going to read the book. But
Mhm.
it's like everyone starts small,
Mhm.
everyone fails, and both of those are required to be successful.
Mhm. And again, it goes back to you doing things for you, not for everybody else and trying to please
Mhm.
everybody else, right?
Mhm.
It's all of those scenarios you just said is you thinking about how you're going to be perceived in the world
Yes.
rather than just seeing how, first of all, God perceives you, but also like how you perceive yourself. So that's really,
Good.
really huge. And you also said in one of your posts, you mentioned there's no such thing as a professional Christian, which you just mentioned a little bit ago as well. And so we're all on this journey, learning
We
this.
are.
And someone who's been walking in their faith longer isn't inherently more valuable than someone newer to the path, right?
No,
So
no.
elaborate on your professional Christian work.
Well, and even I was,
Did you
there
coin
is
that phrase, girl?
I'm going to. Yeah, I did. I came up with, well, it's because actually, funny enough, someone, a Christian
Uh-huh.
used that on me, but in like a derogatory, like, cause they're further in their walk than me. And they
Yeah.
were saying like,
To be shamed,
basically that,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I was like, I don't think that's my Jesus. Like, I don't, because my Jesus is the Jesus that literally, I mean, at the time of this writing, like Jesus was a rabbi, right? Literally, for cultural context. So you guys can see how powerful this is and why I get so excited about it. At the time of Jesus, rabbis literally like, boys would go to school, women couldn't go to school. So guys would go to school for years to learn every word of what's the Old Testament, every word. The tip top 1% might get to go to school to be a rabbi or to learn under a rabbi. The tip top 1% of that might get the invitation from a rabbi to follow them and to live life with them. So the people that were able to walk with rabbis at this time were like, I mean, they were the Elon Musks of the world.
Yeah.
Jesus, Son of God, rabbi, asks a fisherman. He asks a tax collector who was like bad guy at this time. He asks ordinary people that have like, they're not smart. They're not high ranked. They are normal, ordinary people. And that's brought me so much comfort because I was never very academic. I was never known for my brains. I was just known for like, I get really excited about things. And when I was like, honestly, going through a really hard time in college, when I realized like, wait a second, like God, like, because I kind of thought the same thing. Like, I'm not as valuable to God because I'm not doing things for God, or I don't work at a church, or I don't know all the verses. And when I realized that is so not true, literally, scripture has a verse that says, He leaves the 99. If there's 99 sheep and one goes missing, He will go find that one. And He is more happy about that one sheep coming home than the 99 that never left. So, like, to the person listening that feels like God doesn't love them as much. Oh my gosh, God loves you so much. And what changed so much in my life that led me to want to know God more, it started with love. Like, it wasn't a list of rules I felt like I had to achieve and do right by in order to get God's love. It was like, no, wow, like God really does. He loves me so much. And because of that, I want to know what He says is good for my life. It's not I want to follow rules to get God to love me. It's no, He loves me and He made me. So what if like your mom who gave birth to you and knows every bit of you left you a book that said like, hey, I know every part of you. This is what I say gives you life in this world. I would read that like every night. I look at the Bible. It's like, it's not a rule book. It's a love story, and it's the best love story. And so that's how I really see like faith and getting to know God.
Oh, that's beautiful. So
Yeah.
how do you, okay, I'm going back to dating just a little bit because I want to touch on a little bit more, but how can you navigate conversations about purity and expectations with your partner without fear or judgment? And you're afraid of that. How do you suggest they navigate that?
So good. And it's so real. Oh my gosh. Physical boundaries, hard. Like I even like Hunter and I did a whole relationships podcast the other day on someone else's podcast. And we were just saying like, it's considered weird. Like we have never had sex. We don't do that. Like 24 people are like, what? And, we're like, what? And so I think, well, to start with how you navigate those conversations, that conversation started before I met Hunter. You know, it's like, it's a conversation you have with yourself and God before you get in the relationship. I always say, if you like, I work out in the morning. So like this morning I woke up at 5 to go work out. Did I feel like waking up when my alarm went off at 5? No, but I had a conversation with myself last night that I was going to do it. So when do you have the conversation with yourself? It's before the opportunity presents itself around what that conversation entails. It's not at the time that you need to, like, you meet the person, it's now. And even if you've already met the person, of course, you can still have this conversation, but it's figuring out what is your why. Like for Annie Mayfield, what was my why? My why was I don't know exactly why, but God said this was something that honored Him and like was good for me. And so what it started doing was rewiring. Oh, well, if God made sex and He said this is the way to do it, what about sex is so awesome that like He wants me to do it this way? And I say this as someone who does not have a perfect past. I had sex in college with my first boyfriend, and it was not a relationship with God. It was not a pure relationship. I mean, he was an amazing guy. We both loved each other, but like no ill will there. But like those weren't, I'm saying this as someone who now wants to conduct a pure relationship. So can you do that? Absolutely. His mercies are new every morning. I think my why now is I mean, a couple of reasons. The conversation I was having with myself before I met Hunter was really like, okay, why do I want to abstain from sex until marriage? For me, it was, I really want to experience sex the way God designed it to. So I still, to be determined, I don't know what that's like, but once I do, I think it'll make so much more sense. But also too, I once heard a pastor say this, and this is so good. I've only experienced love in the form of someone saying yes to me physically. It's a much more powerful kind of love when someone says no, but in a way that they want to, but they're willing to restrain themselves to honor you. That kind of love, I didn't know that until Hunter. Like, do we want to? Of course. We are a guy and a girl that love each other. Of course. But like, he says no to me and I say no to him. And it is the most honoring thing because I know that we both want to so bad. And that also like long term, and also like long term, what it does is, I know without a shadow of a doubt that, well, I truly believe like Hunter's such a faithful guy. If we ever do get to marriage, like infidelity will not be part of our story, but like infidelity is part of my past. So you can bet your bottom dollar that we've had lots of conversations around that insecurity popping up. And I was speaking with a counselor once and she told me this and I was like, oh, and she said, what also not having sex until marriage does is it shows you Hunter knows how to restrain himself. And he has very good self-restraint. And one day, if an insecurity pops up again and he's on a business trip and, he's busy and he's with other women he works with, like you look back to this time and I know him. I know he knows how to say no to temptation. I know he knows how to restrain himself. And that's the gift I'm giving myself 30 years from now is this time. And that was something that I didn't even realize.
That's cool.
So
I love
cool.
that.
It's cool. So anyways, how do you bring up the conversation? Again, this is why I think dating someone who's already has that relationship or is also figuring it out is important. Cause you come at it, I think, from the same angle. Like I have been in relationships before where I've said I'm not having sex until marriage and they very much were kind of there, but doing it for me. And that was really hard. Cause then I felt like I was the only one like carrying this ship, which is super difficult. But with Hunter, it was honestly, when he asked me to be his girlfriend, this was probably a couple dates and I was very upfront. I was like, hey, listen, I see this having a future. Absolutely. I want you to know I'm not having sex until marriage. And it's upfront. It's not when you start making out and you're like, just so you know, it's no, hey, like, it's a deal breaker for some people. And that's okay. That's okay. Everybody's a person. For me, it was a deal breaker if that was a deal breaker for them because that wasn't changing on my end. And so I think it's if you trust God with your sexuality, like I'm trusting that your ways, trust God with the outcome when you bring bravely that piece of information to the conversation with this partner. And know, again, rejection is God's protection. If they don't have a good reaction, that's not the person God has for you. I believe. So that's what I would say to that.
That's perfect. Perfect. So let's talk about your book. Your book. So, okay, you've written an incredible book called You Matter. It is a 4-time Amazon bestseller. I mean, did you even see that coming?
That was so cool. That was really cool.
I love it. So what inspired you to write You Matter and how did your faith shape the message you wanted to share with readers throughout this book?
This is good. So I actually was invited back to a school in January to speak. And I remember I met with the people like a couple months before because you have to get everything, like make sure they have to approve it and make sure everything's politically correct and everything. And so I was like, they were like, what do you think you're going to talk about? I was like, well, and I was really struggling with what I felt because, you have kindergartners all the way to seniors and then the faculty. You have so many ages. And so you're like, what do we all struggle with?
Yeah.
And the phrase "you matter" kept coming up. And it was funny because as I kind of unpeeled the layers, going back to the beginning of this podcast, looping it back around, we all have these things that we think give us weight. Matter is just weight. And we put our weight in our performance, in our achievement, in our ability to make people happy, in our ability to appease situations and make money and look good while doing it and all and like have the following and eat the cake too. And you're just like, we put it in all these things, but eventually, like, what happens when the business deal doesn't go through or when you gain weight and you don't know why it's happening, or when you get injured and gain weight because you can't work out the way you wanted to, or the person breaks up with you, or the grades don't come through, or you didn't get into that program. What happens then? And then it's like the weight of what we once put on a pedestal comes crashing down on us, and it makes us feel like we have the weight of the world on our shoulders. And when I was unpacking that in my own life, I realized there is a reason Jesus put the weight of his shoulders, or put the weight of the world on his shoulders and died so that we could have a relationship with the Father. It's because God always knew we were not designed to hold our weight or the weight of the world. We were always designed to put our worth in him and our value in him. And so I so truly believe like there's so much freedom in knowing your worth does not come from anything you can achieve. Your worth also isn't affected by any failure or loss of yours. It was defined by what Jesus did for you on the cross and who God says you are, which is loved, which is beautiful, which is known, which is fearfully and wonderfully made, which is secure, which is someone with a purpose, which is the light of this world. Like all of those things, I think, are things we all want to be called, but we think we have to achieve our way there. And the whole book kind of goes through, and it really is me writing to myself, but like the person that feels like, insert whatever achievement you have in mind, people pleasing your way there, earning your way there, whatever, meeting religious rules, like religiousness your way there. Like that's not, we just receive grace. And it's completely opposite of anything we're used to. And it requires absolute humility to say, I matter, but it has nothing to do with me. It's because of who made me and who calls me his. And there is freedom in it. So that's why I wrote the book.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So how can, just to tie it all together, how can single Christians kind of guard their hearts while waiting for the right relationship in God's timing? I think that is the fear, like you said. I don't think I'm ever going to get married. I don't think I'm ever going to meet that person. How do you go through that and just guard your heart to get to that place and you hold out? It's not always easy.
It's not easy. It's not easy. I think I feel like I have so many life scriptures, but Matthew 6:33 I love, and it's seek first the kingdom and all else will follow. Someone once told me recently, like, Annie, I feel like in my singleness, I'm doing a really good job because I'm really falling in love with my singleness. And I feel like I'm crushing singleness. And I'm like, that's awesome. But remember, like, you're not called to fall in love with your singleness. You're called to fall in love with the Lord, because the reality of it is your singleness might change. And that's what I went through. I fell in love with my singleness. And I was like, I'm in a good place. But then I started dating and I was like, whoa, it was an identity shift. And there's a reason we're called to seek first God, because when you seek first God, it doesn't matter if you're single, if you're dating, if you're married, if you're divorced, if you're a mama, if you're not a mama, if you're whatever have you, you're still a child of God. Your identity doesn't change. And so I think to guard your heart in singleness, it starts with filling your heart with God and seeking him. I think it also requires giving you grace. Go on the dates. Figure out what you like and what you don't like. You're not going to figure that out in a room by yourself. Like I went on dates before Hunter. I figured out what I liked and what I don't like. And some people, like, if you're seeking first the Lord, you'll feel that prompting, like, okay, I really don't need a date right now. Like some people, that's what they need to not date right now. But if you're someone, you're like, no, like, I'm in a good place. Like, I'm not looking to fill a hole in my heart. I want to date. I would say date, and don't put too much pressure on it. Sometimes Christian singles, they feel like dating with intention looks like knowing on the first date if this is going to be their husband. Oh, I did not know I hope so, but Hunter and I are working that through, but like, I did not know on the first date if Hunter was going to be my husband. I just knew that there was potential there. And I think it's like, God will just give you that curiosity just to keep going. Because the reality of it is, if you're seeking first the Lord, the Spirit will let you know if you need to cut this off.
Right.
You will have all those red flags and then some. But if it's something from the Lord, you will have a peace about just taking that next step. His word is a lamp unto my feet. That's a verse in scripture. I was just at an exhibit, and the oil lamps in that day and age were like this big. They were tiny. And so that scripture verse, people think of it like a floodlight. It is like maybe your pinky toe knows where to go, So I think it's the same in dating. Like, God will give you a peace for that next step. Maybe it's just texting the person back. Maybe it is getting coffee. But stop like placing these expectations on where you should be, on where you're at. Because just enjoy where you're at. And I know that's hard, but there's beauty here.
Yeah.
And if you're so focused on where you're not, you're going to miss the beauty and the tools God's trying to put in your toolbox in this moment. I really believe that.
Amazing. Wow, wow, wow. I've loved having you today. I mean, just your beliefs and your direction and the things that you've been through. And I think also allowing others to resonate in the fact that you weren't always in this total journey.
Yep.
You did have sex at one point before. You did take off a period of time before you're walking the walk. And so I love that, Annie. I love that. And I think your book is just incredible. And I would love for you to tell everybody where they can find you, find your book. Give us all your handles, and I'll put it in the show notes as well. But give us what you got.
Oh my gosh. Well, when you guys are done listening to Andrea's podcast and you have time, my podcast, Made to Shine, is everywhere else you can find podcasts. Spotify, Apple. My books are everywhere. Amazon might be the easiest place to go. And then my Instagram handle is Annie B. Mayfield.
Annie B. Mayfield. Perfect. And again, I'll put that in the show notes for everybody to find. Before you go, I'd love to play a little game called From Mrs. Smith.
Oh my gosh, wait, I was so looking forward to this. Let's go.
Let's go. Okay, here's your 10 questions. Number 1, would you rather attend a faith-based retreat for a weekend or spend a week volunteering for a cause you're passionate about?
Oh gosh. I should say volunteering. I'm going to say faith-based retreat. I love retreats. They're my favorite. They're my favorite.
Yeah. Yes. Number 2, would you rather receive a handwritten love letter filled with Bible verses or a surprise date planned around your favorite worship songs?
I'm gonna send Hunter the recording and be like, plan all of these. No, honestly, I love language as words of affirmation. So love letters all the way. Like I love letters and love letters. I love letters.
Perfect. Number 3, would you rather give up social media to deepen your connection with God or fast from your favorite hobby for the same purpose?
Ooh. Give up social media.
Hobby.
Give up social. Oh, my favorite hobby is pickleball.
Pickleball.
It's good. It's good stuff.
So would you definitely social media?
Social media would probably be the one I'd give up.
That'd be the one. Number 4, would you rather fall for someone who makes you laugh uncontrollably or someone who gives you butterflies every time they walk in the room?
Laugh. I love to laugh. I think laughter is medicine in a very sick world. I really believe. I think laughter is medicine. So laugh all the way.
Laughter's the one. Number 5, would you rather your partner brings you coffee every morning or brings you donuts every Sunday after church?
Coffee. I'm a big coffee drinker.
Big coffee drinker. I love a good donut every now and then. I don't really think about it much.
Donuts are good. Donuts are good. But that coffee hits different. It hits different.
Number 6, would you rather always getting to pick the movie for a date night or always getting to choose the restaurant?
Movie.
Because
I have a hard no clause against anything that is scary or has blood in it or action. So really it's just rom-coms. So movie all the way.
Movie. That's funny. Number 7, would you rather flirt over a Bible study session or during a playful round of Christian trivia?
Trivia. Anything where we're talking more. That's exactly what I would want.
Christian trivia. Oh my gosh, I would not do so.
That'd be awesome.
Number 8, would you rather go on a double date with your best friend or Hunter's best friend?
Ooh. I have to say my best friend, right? Yeah. I'd have to say my best friend.
What would he say?
I think he would say, honestly, we have a friend that we love her boyfriend so much. I think he'd say my friend too. I think that, yeah.
All right, number 9, would you rather have a partner who serenades you with worship songs or writes you sweet prayers to start your day?
Writes me sweet prayers. Words of and that's
it. And the last one, slow dancing in the living room or spontaneous dance moves in the kitchen?
Oh my gosh. Spontaneous dance moves. Fun fact, Hunter and I crush wedding dance floors. If anyone wants to invite us to their wedding, we will make an appearance. We literally, we are a 6-hour straight dancing, spastic kind of couple. No. That is our jive. We throw in some 2000s T-Pain and we'll
You're not coming off the dance floor.
Never. Yes. Shoes off. I'm staying. Hair up. That's the vibe.
You're in. And did you recognize that? Did you go to a wedding and that happened and you were like, oh my God, he loves us as much as I do?
I knew. So my best friend got married in March. And I remember this was when Hunter and I kind of started dating more seriously. We started officially dating in February, but it was March. And I remember telling my friend, I was like, listen, your wedding is going to be a major exposure point because I like to dance at weddings. I will crush a dance floor. Before I had a boyfriend, I crushed a dance floor. And I was like, I just don't know if he'll be able to keep up.
Yeah.
And that kid kept up. We had the best time dancing together. So yeah, we
love that.
solidified that at Alexa's wedding.
Oh, perfect. Thank you for playing the game. I love that. It gets to know people a little bit more.
Yes.
And I love that you're coming up on a year. How exciting is that?
It's your anniversary was last week, so that was
you just hit it. Okay, perfect.
well, I guess we did it from when we started like dating.
Actually dating.
Like, yeah.
It's always like it's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I love it. And it sounds like it's going amazing and you guys are headed in the right direction.
Yeah.
Which is just incredible and walking together. So I love that. Thank you so much for joining me today, Annie. It's been such a pleasure to have you. You're so insightful in everything to do with this journey. And I hope that the listeners really resonated with it because it's just incredible information. And to the listeners out there, thank you for joining me. It has been such a pleasure. You can find me on any major streaming platform and you can email me with any questions at info@frommisstomiz.net. You guys have a wonderful week and we will see you next week. Bye.